welcome to another episode of Murder Dictionary Podcast. My name is Brianna, and over there is Kelly.
I have no makeup on.
Me neither. It's a big day for us. You told me I'm glowing earlier. I wanted to say I'm pregnant because I think that's funny.
You didn't look pregnant, so...
Most people don't think that's funny, but I love pregnancy jokes. I especially love pregnancy jokes when I'm filling out doctor forms and they're asking me about, because, you know, as a woman, there's just a ton of questions like, do you fuck? How do you not make babies? You know, just a whole bunch of shit. Right?
I like every time when you're in the office and you, it says sex, I always think of Austin Powers. But it's
yes,
like, please.
Yeah,
yes, please.
So I try and be clever on those forms. I'm just like, I fucks pussy. And the doctor's like, hey, so I see here that you fuck pussy. I'm like, yeah, that's how I don't get pregnant.
So you do want birth control, some condoms.
Exactly. Thanks, doc. And I wink and point, do some finger guns.
Here's a sexy lollipop. Get out of here, kid.
Well, before we get started, I just wanted to remind you guys to check out our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as remember to leave iTunes reviews. We thank everybody that left a 5-star review on an episode. So if you left one this week, please listen to the end, and we want to say thank you. We have a couple new Patreon supporters this week, so we wanted to shout out... Need my handy dandy list.
I'm amazed every time. I can't wait to hear.
I know. With this week, we have...
Obama.
He loves us. New Patreon support from Austin and SPK, another robot.
Sick.
We love them robots.
Yeah.
So thank you so much to Austin and SPK. We appreciate
you. So much.
You.
Yeah. That's so
and
cool.
Lastly, in the descriptions and show notes for this episode, you will find links to the resources that I used for research this week, as well as some resources for domestic violence, CPS, mental health resources, suicide prevention hotlines, any of that stuff. They will be linked in our show notes. And any of the points that you don't want to listen to that may be a little bit too violent for you, we have some timestamps in the description so that you can skip through or turn it up, whatever the case may be.
Barf cauldron timestamps?
Exactly. That's our barf cauldron section. Skip right over it.
We should have one for tears and giggles.
Tears and giggles timestamps?
Yeah. Oh, start now because I just giggled.
Start now. I'm crying. It doesn't sound like it, but I am. So I think that's pretty much it. And we can get started on Queensland Part 2.
Whoop. So
whoop, whoop, indeed. Are you a juggalo now?
Is that what they say? I've been saying that
do.
Forever. Oh,
really?
Fuck.
Yeah, that's a juggalo thing. Sorry to break it to you.
I thought it was like...
I'd love to go to the gathering if you're down.
I'm so down. Is there... Oh, fuck yeah.
I really want to go.
Can we go? Please. I just
Secretly, I just look at pictures of the gathering every year, and I'm like, I want to go to there. All longingly.
It's your Graceland.
It kind of is.
Let's go.
It seems like an experience, and I'm all about having experiences.
We'll get some good stories.
Oh, yeah.
Memoirs of a Juggalo.
I just want to see that big-ass Reggie dude.
Who the fuck is Reggie? Do I not know anything about ICP?
He's the really big, like...
clown-looking one.
He's not even in the band. He's just one of the people that's famous for being at the gathering. And he's a very heavy-set man, and he just wears a Speedo, thong thingy. Yeah. And...
Let's do it.
I'll send you some links and some articles. I know way too much about juggalos. It comes from my love of Florida.
Juggalos.
So, Queensland, Part 2. So this one is the story of Robin Reid and Paul...
Giamatti.
This is the story of Robin Reid and Paul Luckman. I did too many drugs.
You can still read. You want my glasses?
I'm good. Give me more drugs. So Robin Reid was also referred to as Bob sometimes, was born in England in 1948, and he came to Australia with his family in 1961. His family was kind of a working class Queensland family at that point. And he left school at 14 so he could start working as a laborer, a painter. He did sales, stuff like that, so he could make money for his family. He was kind of outdoorsy, was very into weapons. You get the picture in your head?
Yeah.
Survivalist kind of guy, it seemed like. He really loved knives and bow and arrows.
You're just describing an Australian.
Yeah, right? It seems weird here in America, but I guess that's a little bit normal when you have like huge critters. When your spiders are the size of...
Huge.
Yeah. Guinea
Huge.
pigs.
Ugh.
Quacka flocka. So, since he gravitated towards weapons and violence and all that sort of stuff, he decided to channel that energy into joining the army. We always see that works out well.
It's better than just running loose, right?
Well, yeah.
I mean...
But a lot of times once they join the army, then...
Training.
They just go out into left field, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
Goes either way. It either scratches that violence itch or they just lose their minds.
Full Metal Jacket?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
In 1972, he enlisted, and while in the army, they determined that he had an exceptionally high IQ. I don't know if it's normal to test IQ in the army. I don't think so in America. Not to be a dick, but...
I think if he's acing all the tests,
I've just never heard of that.
We should have it for shits and gigs. Let's just see where he's at, where he's
Right?
at on the scale.
I guess. So he was exceptionally bright. He was kind of known for that, just kind of being a smart guy. He was also a little bit cocky about it, so maybe there was that. He was also bisexual, and while in the army, once he joined, he started having some relationships and, let's say, encounters with other men.
Is it like 6 dudes and like
Kelly's
one
playing with her nipples.
dog tags?
There was a lot of like soapy showers.
Oh man.
Get my back, bro.
I got it. Be there.
So once he was in the army, he was also given the nickname, because of his bisexuality and maybe his reputation, he was named Head Job Bob. Which is wonderful. If you're going to be known for something, you know,
Head
be
job
famous
anything.
for blowies,
Yeah.
you know?
Superhead.
I was just thinking the same thing, like Corinne Steffen. You're just known for being Superhead.
That's a good legacy, dude.
I know. And she was also known for them nipple pasties in that Mystical video.
Oh my god.
Remember
yes.
that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Should be known for pasties and blowies, I'm just saying.
It's a good
It's
legacy.
a great life.
Yeah. It's better than like...
Who needs an Oscar? That's all
Yeah.
I'm saying.
I mean, Lindsay Lohan's got Mean Girls and Cocaine and The Parent Trap.
So Corinne Steffen's winning.
Winning. You shouldn't do any stupid accents, so...
So once he was in the army for a little while, 34-year-old Robin Reid met 17-year-old Paul Luckman. Twice his age.
Jailbait.
Right. Paul had joined the army really young because he was trying to escape a really tumultuous home life. He had a lot of chaos and instability at home, so he joined the army to kind of get away from that. That was his escape. He was really young when he enlisted. His mother was an alcoholic who had left the family when he was really young, so he really didn't have a relationship with her at all. But his dad raised him, and his dad was a criminal and had a bunch of children with a bunch of different women. He's basically like the Australian ODB. Have I ever told you that story of, I think I have, of ODB being on like TRL or something? Carson Daly or whoever it was, I think it was Carson, goes one by one to Redman and Method Man and ODB, and he's like, what's your summer project? What are you doing over the summer? And they're all like touring, recording an album, all this stuff. Get to ODB, and ODB's like, I'm looking for more bitches to put babies in. He just cracks me up.
Here I am, ODB. Oh, rest in peace.
Oh man, that's my ODB little tidbits of weird knowledge I have about ODB.
You know, the knowledge I have of ODB is my dream is that I just hope you wear the ODB shirt I got you to bed naked-ish.
Oh yeah, all the time.
With little cute socks or something?
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Some little baseball socks and that ODB shirt. And I snuggle on that Always Sunny pillow that you got me. So in addition to having a bunch of kids with a bunch of different women, Paul's father also reportedly had relationships with men and with some trans women. Many of Paul's half-siblings would grow up to have varying degrees of mental health struggles, as well as some antisocial behavior, in quotes.
Like bisexuality?
No, that's overly social. That's me.
Oh. God.
That's when your cunt's overly social. I would know. So Paul was also a sexual assault survivor, although I don't know the details, but he was open about having been assaulted over a lengthy period of time, but I don't know specifics.
Oh, that's depressing. You
Welcome
should
to
be.
the Murder Podcast. In his teens, Paul started to wear a little bit more feminine or androgynous clothing. A lot of articles will call it cross-dressing. I don't know what he was identifying as in his teens, but he did change his style, and it was a little bit softer. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, he also became a sex worker in his teens.
God, I like this guy a little bit so far.
I do too. Spoiler alert, he's a murderer.
Ah, but he's
Sorry.
a bisexual.
He's on our team.
Yeah.
So he left school at 16, probably making a lot of money. Joined the army at 17. Boo.
Fuck fest.
Soapy showers all around. Where he met, like I said earlier, 34-year-old Robin Reid. The two became close immediately. They shared a bunk together, and they had the same interests.
Well, you're allowed to share a bunk? Or, oh, no, they probably
I think it
sneaking.
was more communal, like,
Okay.
10 people in one bunk
Okay,
or whatever.
okay.
That
Sorry,
kind of way.
I thought you meant like, never mind.
You mean sleeping in the same bed?
Spoons. Yeah.
Yeah, spoons. Spoon man. So they got close pretty quickly. They shared common interests, like I said earlier, weapons, violence, and sexual torture fantasies.
Snuggles.
All that, yes.
Yeah.
Kisses and cuddles. They also were into Satanism, and of course, they were both attracted to men. Once they met each other and they had these same interests, they started exploring those together. Whereas maybe Robin was known as head job Bob before, it became more of a BDSM thing. He found a person to kind of indulge in those things with. You're making faces at me.
Relationship goals? Kind of like I'm searching for my...
Yeah, except for when it gets to the murder
torture.
part. Yeah.
I don't ever go without torture. Like, we get the wrong feet.
Everything up to that.
Yeah.
Consensually.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of consensual torture, though.
Consensual.
That's always the key. So Robin was a bottom. I don't usually go into that because I think that's kind of bullshit. People are like, you're the man in the relationship or whatever. They put people in gender roles, but that's not what I'm getting at.
I'm a power bottom, so...
What I'm getting at is they started exploring torture together. Oh. So Robin was a bottom, and he started letting Paul, tie him up, restrain him, and do terrible things to him. Consensually, though. Oh. So they started exploring some things together that maybe both of them hadn't experienced before, it seems. Probably a little bit of that. Yeah. I think from what I hear, they liked, a lot of hitting and cigarette burns and stuff like that, knife play.
Bible verses?
Exactly. The Reading Rainbow. They watched Mr. Rogers.
Whoa. These are... You crossed
real
the
grown
line.
man shit.
Rude.
So, they found their kind of literal partners in crime.
Yeah.
The other thing that they were into was forced orgasm. So he would be restrained. Robin, again, was the bottom. And Paul would go at him till he came.
I think the word you're looking for is...
But I feel like there's a more specific,
ejaculation.
It's supposed to be reluctant. You reluctantly come. It's a forced orgasm. But it kind of doesn't make sense. For me, what stands out is that Paul was really young, you know?
Like 17?
Yeah, he's still a teenager, and this man twice his age. I mean, even if he was into this stuff, that's a little intense, you know?
Even at I feel like at 17, I'm into whoever I'm fucking stuff. Like the stuff that they're into. You know what I mean?
You're kind of absorbing from whoever your partner is.
Like, what's her name on Parks and Recreation?
I don't remember.
Rob Lowe.
Just learning a bunch of things.
Yeah. You know, wearing cowboy hats. And
Sexually awakened.
Yeah.
So
he's doing creepy stuff at a young age.
Yes. I don't know. That just really stands out to me.
It does, yeah.
It just seems a little... That's a lot for a young mind to wrap their head around.
Sex is already fucking crazy at 17 where you don't even know.
Yeah.
Anal is definitely out of the question. Like...
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's a lot. And of course, like I said, he was a victim, a sexual abuse victim. So I don't know. There's just something about it that seems like this would hit a certain nerve that puts him in another victim role because he is such a young person. He's underage, you know?
So he probably has some healing to do before he does some fucking...
Yeah, some gnarly ass shit with a 34-year-old man.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so they would also discuss a lot of their torture fantasies about other people. So in addition to doing this together, they talked about what they would do if they were with another man.
Okay.
Or boy. Or whatever.
Like them together as like a group, like we would do this?
Exactly.
Not like, okay.
Like I would, abduct this person and this is how I would hurt them pretty much.
Almost making plans, like fantasies into you can see where it's going to escalate.
Exactly. And other soldiers had heard them discussing this. It was known around that they both kind of had this common interest in torture fantasy.
I mean, where's the line, a hotline to report this shit, dude? Like, I don't want to... You can't call the cops. You can't tell your superiors.
I know. I mean, it's a thought crime until a crime happens.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Which is like, where do you draw the line? And that's a whole other subject to explore. But it's still
true.
Like, something's not right.
Yeah, like the whole thing with cops where it's like, we can't do anything. We can't arrest him until he does anything.
Oh,
which
God,
is
like restraining orders, you mean?
Yeah,
Fuck.
like what?
Yes, it's just like that. I mean, nobody could really say anything except for that it's like, oh, those two guys are a little off, you know? There's nothing to report, so as far as they know.
They could just shoosh him. Shoosh!
Hey, knock it off. I don't want to hear about it, man. So once they were doing these like fantasy planning sessions for a little while, they decided to put those in action in the spring of 1982. The pair went to a nightclub together and they met a young man named John Bruce. They convinced John to leave with them and took him to a remote wooded area instead of partying like they had promised. When they got out into the middle of nowhere, they pushed John out of the car, they blindfolded and handcuffed him at gunpoint, and they started to beat him up. They then released him from his restraints and said if he could get away, that they would let him live.
I hate them so much. Oh my God.
I know, switching teams, flip-flopper.
Fuck.
It's pretty awful. While John was running out into the woods trying to get away from them, they began hunting him with a bow and arrow. So he was running through the bush and they were trying to shoot at him with a bow and arrow.
Game. That's not...
I can't even. That's a real life horror movie.
Yeah, I don't know which one's worse. The physical pain of them like throwing you out of the car and being handcuffed, or fucking running and being like
Just
the mind.
the terror.
Yeah.
Well, on top of that, what happened was John was asthmatic, so he had an asthma attack.
While he was running?
Yes. But they actually felt sorry for him. So he kind of, doubled over, was trying to catch his breath. Clearly, he couldn't go any longer. They saw that he was really having a really severe asthma attack. I'm assuming from not only the physical part of it, but just the panic, And so they felt bad, and they just put him back in the car and took him home.
I thought you were going to say they gave him a head start. Like,
no. They're pretty awful. I would believe that too.
Yeah.
But actually, no, they
took
got
him
back in the car and they're like, okay, let's just give you a ride home.
And then they're just not going to ever bring it up again.
Exactly. Just played it off like, well, that was normal. Let's just take you home and we'll not speak of this anymore.
Would you tell someone, honestly, like if you knew they were capable of doing it again, would you just keep your mouth quiet? Like, would you just keep shut or would you tell the authorities right away?
Well, what happened to him was he went back home or wherever. He told his friends and he was like, look, these guys abducted me. They chased me. They hunted me. And his friends were like, you can't go to the police. Nobody is going to believe you. People are going to think you're crazy. They're going to wonder what happened. And he was discouraged from going and reporting it.
Oh, shit.
I mean, I don't know what kind of information he had other than a description, maybe a license plate number. So he didn't really know their identities. But still, it should have been reported.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm always scared of retaliation. That's why. Because if they don't do anything and they're like, we know exactly where to find you and we know you have asthma. Like,
it's a bad combo.
No Head Start this time.
Yeah.
Like
fuck.
that, I would be terrified.
Exactly. Yeah, that would just be major PTSD.
Yeah.
So since he was convinced that the police wouldn't believe him, he never reported it. And Robin and Paul got away with the first attack. They decided to make it a regular thing because nothing happened to them after the first one. They basically told John, don't tell anyone, and he never did. And so they had more confidence afterwards.
It's like the Taco Tuesdays or the Thirsty Thursdays. That's so shitty. I hate them.
Yeah, they're pretty bad. And it's going to get worse. Sorry to tell you.
These are uncomfortable laughs. These are funny laughs.
Yeah, so fucking uncomfortable. On May 4th, 1982, just a few days later, the two soldiers met 13-year-old boys named Peter Aston and Terry Ryan. The two boys had met at school. They had become pretty good friends. Peter was new to Queensland, and Terry was really nice to him when he first got to school, and so they just clicked up. Peter was extremely tall for his age, and he was extremely nearsighted, so he had these really thick glasses. He was very lanky, and he was the victim of a ton of bullying. He was picked on and teased all the time, and he just had that one friend that stuck by him.
That's all you need.
Yep,
Yeah.
right? You need your ride or die.
Yeah.
So as a result of all this bullying and really not wanting to go to school, Peter and Terry started ditching, cutting class, and they would go and kind of create mischief around town, shall we say. They were known to shoplift a lot, and they kind of didn't get into major trouble, but you could see that maybe there was some emotional struggle going on, and overall they didn't want to be at school.
Yeah.
So one day, the morning of May 4th, 1982, they decided, or Peter decided, I should say, that he wanted to go visit his brother in Melbourne. And his friend Terry was like, I'll come with you.
Yeah. For class.
Right? Exactly. We never go anyway, so what's the use? So Terry decided he's going to come along for the ride. He'll go with him to see his brother and then just come right back. The boys took a train part of the way, and part of their journey through, they got out, they shoplifted some more, they got some clothes, they got some cigarettes, and then they started to hitchhike the rest of the way. After a short while trying to hitchhike, they came across Robin and Paul. They were on the side of the road with their yellow Daihatsu is the car. Never heard of that.
Japanese?
But it looks like a kind of SUV, Jeepy kind of thing.
Cool.
So they were pulled over, the hood was up, and it looked like they were trying to fix the car.
Don't go Ted Bundy on me.
Nope, exactly. So they came up and they were like, you know, what's going on? They started a conversation. The men offered to give the boys a ride. Robin instructed one boy to sit in the front and another in the back seat.
No, we're fine back here in the back seat.
I'm going to stay close to my friend.
Where
Thank you
we
very
can
much.
watch you.
Yeah, keep an eye on your old ass.
Seriously.
Terry thought it was weird, but I mean, a 13-year-old, he's just going off of what an adult instructs him to do, so he followed along.
I think it's weird that the car automatically is fixed now that the two boys are here.
It was fucked up a second ago. Maybe I shouldn't get in this car.
Oh, the car
that's
works?
a bad sign.
Right when I walk
Poor
up?
thing.
Yeah, no.
Oh, you fixed it. Your magic 13-year-old energy just made my car work. Fuck.
He just Fonzies the car real quick.
Right.
We're good to go.
Bangs on it a couple times. Or a Frank Underwood tap.
Oh my
and
God.
it just starts up. It's like, I didn't even turn the key.
That's so much better than Fonzie.
No, Fonzie's awesome.
Really? Okay, you know what? I'm just a...
So not long after getting on the road, Terry's suspicions were kind of realized when the soldiers pulled out weapons on them and said that they were the police. The boys started freaking out because they knew they had just shoplifted. They didn't know really what to make of the whole situation. So very quickly, the soldiers handcuffed them, and the boys started asking questions and wondering where are they going, what are they being charged with, that kind of stuff. And when they started asking questions, they got pistol whipped. So the soldiers drove them to a secluded beach area. The boys were stripped, they were kicked and punched, and also sexually assaulted. So Terry was then forced to perform sexual acts on his friend Peter. And then they also cut Peter's pubic hair with a knife and forced Terry to eat it.
Oh, no.
Yeah. They started instructing Terry to hit Peter. So Terry went along with it, and he said that he tried to hit him as softly as he could while still being convincing that he was actually inflicting some harm.
Fuck, just hit me. Just hit me. I'd rather have the shit kicked out of me than have to beat up my friend.
God, it's just, I can't even imagine.
I promise to punch you lightly if...
Thanks, bro.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
I'm really good at acting. Acting like I'm going to punch something.
So Terry, seeing the way that the dynamic was playing out and how they were instructing him, he quickly realized that the only way for him to really get out alive was to switch sides and start identifying with his attacker, basically.
No.
So he asserted himself into the side of the abductors, and he asked, just point blank, if he could join in. So Terry recalls, I just said, can I join you? I'm not sure who said it, but he said, how can we trust you? And I said, well, you see me hit him on the head, didn't you? After he asked to join in, they began giving him more directions. And they told him how to assault his friend. They were guiding him step by step on how to hurt his friend Peter. The soldiers proceeded to torture Peter for 6 hours.
No. Okay, I thought this kid was going to get a gun in his hand and be like, okay, here, just pass me the gun. He was just trying to save himself?
Yes.
He just threw his friend under the bus?
He's like, there's obviously one or both of us is going to die.
Oh, fuck.
And he's already taking... It seemed like they had focused the majority of the assault on Peter anyway. And he's like, if I'm going to make it out alive, I got to do this.
Oh, barf cauldron.
It's bad.
That's really fucked up, and it's really hard for me to it's hard for me to understand that a 13-year-old knew how to handle that. Like, I wouldn't have even...
Really striking to me, too, is just the psychology of understanding at that, young tween age.
Yeah.
Of just like, okay, this is the dynamic that's playing out. How do I win their favor? How do I get in their good graces? And really think about the psychological aspects of what's happening while something so traumatic is unfolding.
Yeah, you'd just be too stressed and you wouldn't be able to think, right? Like, I wouldn't have
as a full-grown woman, you know?
I would just be breaking down. That's crazy.
Exactly. So that was his strategy. He had thought it up and put it into action.
Fuck.
So once the three of them were on one side and attacking Peter, there were basically a ton of injuries inflicted on him over the course of 6 hours. He was kicked, he was hit with a shovel as well as a rifle. He was hit so hard with the rifle that it actually broke in 2 pieces. He was tortured with lit cigarettes and had an aerosol spray ignited near his face. They also were basically putting clothing or sand in his mouth and, restricting his oxygen.
Sand?
Yeah, because they were on the beach area. And he was also stabbed a total of 35 times.
Holy fuck.
Towards the end of it, they had Terry dig a shallow grave. Then they put him in it and just kind of sloppily put some sand over the top. If you see pictures, you can clearly see that it's really not even like there was a grave. It looks like a pile of sand that's in the shape of a body. The autopsy report revealed that Peter either died from a skull fracture sustained while being hit with a rifle that broke in half, or a lack of oxygen from being buried alive.
Which one's worse?
Man.
Lack of oxygen.
That's where I'm leaning, but it just sounds so terrible.
Either way, that sounds awful. And
this poor kid.
And his fucking friend helped. That's like my last memory is my fucking friend helped.
I think we've talked about that before, haven't we? Like, if you know the person that's killing you and they're close to you. Like, it's just, there's this added layer of just...
Et tu, Brute.
Heartbreak. Yes, exactly. So the soldiers said that they would drop Terry off near his home. So they all got back into the car and drove away. They bundled up the weapons and everything that they used, and they disposed of them in a nearby park. Terry says the whole time that they were driving, the men were like joking and laughing about the assault, recounting the events in a very lighthearted way. Ugh. And they even stopped for food. Like, who can eat at a time like this?
No, I don't want any nuggets, man.
Yeah, oh my God.
And how do you, like people are making jokes. Are you sitting there quiet? Or are you like, because they might kill you?
Yeah, because he has to, like, identify with them. He has to keep up this charade.
You're either with us or you're against us. Like, you want to live or die.
Oh, terrifying.
Not a time for nuggets at all.
Mm-mm. That is not nugget o'clock when that's happening. So Terry says that he didn't eat. And while they were driving, the soldiers were also talking about how they were Satan worshipers and they had to kill Peter for sacrifice.
I thought, like, Satanism doesn't hurt children. It
Really?
doesn't, yeah.
I really don't know enough about it, to be honest.
I only know what I know because of the last podcast. Honestly. And
everything I know, I learned from there.
Yeah. And the holy trio, you know?
Yeah. When they arrived at Terry's neighborhood, Robin shook his hand and made him promise that he wouldn't tell anyone. He threatened, if you do, the same thing that happened to your friend will happen to you. So Terry ran home. He said that along the way, he started just taking his clothes off. He just, I guess, felt suffocated and disgusted by it and just ran home in his underwear, basically.
Oh, man.
Yeah. He arrived.
Sorry.
A
handshake is like just equivalent of a pinky swear to me. Like, don't tell anyone. You promise? Shake on it.
Yeah, totes.
Yeah, that's so fucked.
So he ran home and took off all his clothes. When he arrived there, he immediately told his mom. Mm-hmm. Thank goodness. He recounted the events, kind of an overview, and she was like, we have to go to the police station right now. So they reported the attack immediately that night that it happened. Tiny clap for them. That's awesome. Yeah. Terry says that he believes when he arrived at the police station and started telling them that nobody believed him. The cops, and I can see why that would happen. The cops were like, okay, so these men attacked you, but you got away and your friend's dead. They didn't believe that either the scenario wasn't right, that he either helped in the attack, like went into it trying to help, or how did he survive? Or maybe that he had done it himself and was blaming it on these two other people. You know what I'm saying?
I want to say he's like 12 or 13, so what the fuck? And it's not your job is not to
just take the report, man, and go look into it.
Just let him be okay, because if it's true, then you're a fucking dick right now.
Yes.
Like, how could you even question him? Like, at least get some deets, go out to the scene, see if things line up before you start questioning him, you fucking piece of shit.
The only thing I can say as just simply a devil's advocate is maybe they just didn't see this kind of extreme thing so often that they were like, how the fuck is that possible?
It's unfathomable, and you don't want to believe it.
Exactly. So that's the only thing that makes sense to me, is why they would be so dismissive. Either way, they did go check it out. I mean, even though it seemed like they were skeptical, and Terry really got the feeling that he was like, nobody's believing me. Until I go take them out to the beach and show them, they're not going to believe me. And so that's exactly what happened. They drove around, they looked for the specific part on the beach that they went out to, and so they were kind of in this semi-remote area where everything looks the same. You know, when you get to the beach and you're like, every stop looks the same?
Yeah.
So they eventually found it after a long time of searching. They walked out to the shallow grave and they found Peter's body there.
Man, he had to go back to
Exactly.
That's so fucking sad, dude.
That's the other thing. Terry, once they got there, he like got even remotely close and he spotted the body and he broke down. In the police report, Terry described his captors as having very like short, high and tight law enforcement or military style haircuts. He also was able to describe their yellow Daihatsu SUV thing. And immediately the description of the car and the men went out to the police. An anonymous tip came in suggesting that the police look at Robin and Paul. They burned themselves by talking about all that torture.
Yes.
So the police went to the army base the day after the murder to ask some questions.
One, do you have a yellow...
Right? Have you seen a yellow car that I can't pronounce? Unfortunately, Robin and Paul were already in the wind by the time they got there. That morning, they had approached another soldier named Ryan Ponsetti and told him that Paul had hurt himself and he needed to be driven to the hospital off base. This was semi-true because at the time, Paul was on crutches because he had injured his foot because he had kicked Peter so hard.
Oh my God, dude.
Yes. So the other soldier, Ryan, completely believed them, saw him on crutches and was like, yes, I'll totally drive you to the hospital. Once they were off the army base, the pair pulled weapons on him, of course, and instructed him to drive to a nearby town.
Why the fuck do both of them need to go? If it's his leg, why is your homie got to go?
I mean...
Moral support?
Something.
Emotional support?
I don't know.
Stupid.
Yeah, it does seem a little sketch. So they pulled over and told him to get out before speeding off in his car. Ryan called the police immediately, gave a description of the car and what had gone down. The police that were local, that were on patrol, spotted them and apprehended them immediately.
Yes.
I'm falling in love with Australia.
Yeah, what the fuck? Good police work for,
all these other episodes we do of American and UK crimes, I mean, they just keep getting away with things.
Yeah.
And nobody finds out, nobody reports, and the law enforcement just don't catch on to it.
Yeah, this is the second...
Exactly,
the cops
and
have
it's
been
just
killing it.
immediate. The public jumps in, that's what I've noticed, and
Public,
the cops are on top of it right away.
The community
Exactly.
kills it. Awesome.
Yep. So they were taken into custody, and the detectives said that Robin Reid came off as cocky and angry immediately. He was very defensive. He minimized his role in the attack and blamed his teenage accomplice with everything. He said that he was hearing voices during the attack as well, and he was clearly setting himself up to like manipulate it to where he was doing an insanity plea.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Like he had this game he was playing from the moment they were arrested. In interrogation, Paul blamed most of the violence on Robin, so they ping-ponged it back on each other. However, the forensics showed that Paul had inflicted a lot of the injuries and was far more severe during the attack.
Wait, Paul's the younger one?
Yeah, Paul's a 17-year-old.
And he was doing...
He was the more violent one. And, you just don't know if that was at the instruction of his accomplice or in fear of, or if that was in his nature.
Or at the height of his, like, weird experimental... like that 17-year-old, he's doing all this crazy shit. He's a sexual abuse or a sexual assault survivor. Yeah, it could be just this weird...
Yeah,
at the peak of your drugs where you were just doing shit that's not you at all, right?
No, that was all me.
Oh, okay. Like that,
Yeah. No, I hear you. So further evidence and weapons were found in the pair's stolen car, and they also went to the army base and searched their barracks and went through all of their stuff. The police took possession of several weapons like swords and spears, and they counted 37 knives of different shapes and sizes.
Spears?
How do you need that many?
Why the fuck? Is that an Australian thing?
37. I mean, I guess there's a lot of creatures.
That's true.
But that still seems like too many.
Yeah.
Even for Australian animals, you know?
No, wait, what? I'm more scared of Australian animals than any serial killer murderer out there.
Just the bugs alone.
Bugs alone.
I've seen some videos, man.
7 of the world's deadliest snakes, I think. Or 5 of the 7. It's a lot of deadly snakes.
That's definitely a Kelly fact.
Them taipans.
So the police also searched a bunch of books, and they found gay literature, some BDSM stuff, and a lot of satanic books. They also found a photo album that contained clusters of pubic hair taped onto the page. So, you know, like old school photo albums, they have kind of those pockets for photos. They had pubic hair and then labels written out with names and the place on the body that it was taken from.
They're fucking scrapbooking.
Exactly. That is the creepiest. So it was basically like, it would say Mike pubic hair and John underarm and Dan torso.
What?
Stuff like that.
Didn't Big Daddy Sex Daddy in the fall, kind of in the show The Fall? That's just Big Daddy Sex Daddy.
oh, got it. You're talking about Phil Spector. No, not Paul Spector.
Jamie Dornan.
Well, yeah, that's his character name.
Oh, yeah. I was like, Phil Spector threw me off.
No, he took hair.
Yeah,
I know
he did, right? And
about.
then like didn't he take some random stuff from hair and then make his little.
I mean, yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of killers that take souvenirs, but this is the first one I've heard with scrapbooking some poobs.
He had a book, though, in the fall. I mean, this isn't a real thing, but there was, in the fall, wasn't there a book? And he had, like, because I always remember when people were being burns. Yeah. It's like, why would you?
It does stand out. Why are you burning yourself with this scrapbooking?
At least throw a lock on that diary. Like, Jesus, a big stay out on front. So, yeah. That's so weird, though.
Yeah, that's very creepy to me. Police also found a notebook in which one of them had been writing like short stories about abducting and assaulting boys. It wasn't straight up planning, but it was more like fictional kind of, I don't know.
Who did that? Didn't the Menendez brothers write like a screenplay too?
Oh,
remember?
That sounds familiar, but
they wrote like a screenplay talking about how these like kids like murder their parents for like.
Damn.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they wrote like a screen. It's stupid.
After the interrogations, Robin Reid was taken by police out on a tour of the murder scene, where he explained in intricate detail what happened the night that the attack took place. Police said that he basically was boasting really proudly about what had happened that night and seemed to be really kind of enjoying the attention and kind of reliving the events. Robin and Paul were formally charged with murder, and Reid was also charged with threatening to inflict bodily harm on Terry Ryan. There was a ton of media attention to the case, and as a result of that, the previous victim from the nightclub, John Bruce, also came forward and offered up his testimony about being abducted by them a couple nights earlier. At the time of the trial, there was a lot of attention, a lot of media coverage, like we talked about in the last one and earlier. The community just stepped up and they were completely outraged. There were death threats and there was a lot of anger at them, rightfully so. But it's worth mentioning that everybody knew what was going on and everybody was really upset. Paul pleaded not guilty, and Robin pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity.
I call bullshit.
Oh, yeah. Lots of bullshit. So since there was really no doubt that the soldiers had actually carried out the attack, there was really no one saying, oh, we're not guilty, like we didn't do it. They were basically trying to throw the blame back and forth. Since it was established that the two of them had committed the murder, they were trying to set up who was more severe during the trial.
That matters, does it? With sentencing?
With sentencing, it would, yeah.
Fuck. Like, we're missing the whole point, guys.
Right.
Like,
yeah. So there really was, from the get-go, no possibility that they would be found not guilty. So since they gave up on that, they were basically trying to build a case for each of themselves being less severe than their accomplice.
okay.
The prosecutor, I think it is worth noting, chose not to show pictures to the jury. Most of the time, a lawyer would enter that into evidence and say, you know, here's what happened to this victim. But he decided that it was just too much for the jury to handle, and he didn't want people to see it. Another thing that happens in Australia, we've talked about that before.
That's crazy. Like, damn.
They want to protect people from those details.
And here we'd be like, oh no, I'm gonna win my case that way. Like,
right,
for
exactly.
Sure.
Whatever
pictures,
it takes.
Yeah, pictures of a dead little kid is gonna win.
Yeah.
No matter what, nobody wants to see that, and they have to deal with that, and you have to punish someone. So.
Yeah. But still, even though they didn't show the pictures, the jurors often cried during the trial. Fuck. Just the description of it was just really horrific.
We're moving to Australia. Fuck it, dude.
I know.
Once we
right?
can afford the Australian makeup prices.
We're coming for you, Australia. So they were just trying to frantically just blame each other, say that the other one did most of the harm. And among the allegations that they were lobbing at each other, Paul claimed that he was forced to participate in the atrocities, that he was threatened, and that Robin said he was going to kill him if he didn't cooperate.
And he's the one that inflicted the most damage, according to forensics.
Yes.
Okay.
So Paul said that when they were out and about, Robin said, "We're going to kill someone tonight. If not, it will be you." And Paul's claim was that that was the only reason that he took part in the murders. Doesn't stand up, but that's what he was claiming. Robin, on the other hand, went with his insanity defense. He claimed that because he was bisexual, he was under more stress and he was a target, and he was afraid that his supervisors might find out and he would be discharged from the army. I also call bullshit on that because you are head job Bob.
Yeah.
Like, everybody knows.
Fuck out of your head
That's
job.
not, you know what I mean? It's no secret.
You weren't insane when you sucked my dick.
Good point.
Yeah. Did the voices in your head tell you to suck my dick?
Right. Keep listening to them. He also claimed that basically the position that he had in the army as a clerk in the Ordnance Corps
was on his knees, but never mind.
Yeah, that position too. He just said that it added a lot of stress and pressure to him, so he basically cracked.
As a clerk in the military?
Yeah. He said,
all the
like,
paperwork.
The combination of bisexuality plus his job plus all the satanic reading caused him to hear voices, and he basically had a break from reality. That was his claim.
You know, if he was a woman and he had a baby and a job and read books, people would think he's crazy too.
Right.
So.
Despite both of their attempts to blame each other and go back and forth with it, both of them were found guilty and sentenced to life in prison.
Sharing the same cell. That would be so good.
No.
No? Then wouldn't they be really mad at each other and then...
Just duke it out? It would be welcome to the Thunderdome, bitch.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? They might like it. Someone's going to come at the end of that fight.
It's the best kind of fight. The survivor, Terry Ryan, said that the death penalty should be in Australia for these types of cases. He also said that if this had happened in America, both of them would be dead.
Yeah.
I don't disagree.
Or free. Do they have money? Do they have money? No? Okay.
Exactly. So, unfortunately, Terry had a lot of trouble after this. Because he was the survivor and he went through a lot, the problem with being the survivor of that kind of crime was that people didn't believe that he wasn't a willing participant, basically.
No.
So he became the victim of a ton of taunting, bullying, just walking down the street because his face was in the paper. He would be, attacked, verbally or physically even.
That's a catch-22 because either you really you did do it on purpose, or you chose your own life and decided to flip the script, and you either way you chose something. That's a hard decision.
Yes.
But
to make while you're in such a traumatic experience, like in the middle of it.
Damn. I mean, we were all saying the community and everything, but
I know.
The community went on pump its brakes a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, nobody really believed him.
It sucks.
Yeah. So, of course, he was so young at the time. He was still a 13-year-old boy. So all through school, he had a really hard time.
And he was homeschooled and lived a happy life, right?
Oh, man, that would have been a much better idea.
Nope.
Yeah. Instead, he actually went to a youth hospital and got some psychiatric help. But it seems that he still, of course, struggled a lot, even well into his adulthood. So the good news is that they tried to get help for him and get him some of the mental health resources that he needed, but it was just too much for him to bear with the community and the whole experience itself and the trauma. So he was in and out of prison for a variety of reasons, theft and whatnot, and assaults and fighting.
No, which doesn't support your case of you not doing anything.
Well, yeah, there's that. I didn't even think about that. He definitely had some anger management issues and just dove into the life of crime. His family also said that he was very heavily into drug and alcohol abuse because he was just kind of numbing the pain away.
Yeah, how could you not, dude? I'd be fucked up 24/7.
And poor thing, I can't even imagine. So his mother also says that he still suffers from nightmares and flashbacks about the event. So even though he was a survivor, it's just been a really tough road for him.
Can we write him a fucking letter or something?
I know. Send him a virtual hug.
Yeah, there's no cards for that, but
I'll find one. We'll make one.
We'll make one. Yeah, fuck, dude.
Since going to prison, Robin Reid has been kept in protective custody. He's had a really rough time also, and his safety has really been in jeopardy most of the time he's been incarcerated.
Oh, no.
Yep. So
you'd be dead in America. You fucking killed a kid.
Again,
honestly, you would. That
yeah.
Vigilante justice that I flip-flop on.
In 1998, Robin applied to have a redetermination of his sentence so that the courts could reevaluate it, and he was hoping that he would get a lighter sentence if he had the courts look over his case again.
So it's like appellate courts or appeals, basically.
Whatever words you're saying,
yeah,
totally.
Because I think you get a couple of appeals, right? Until you.
I just feel like I can't even speak on what goes on in Australia.
Oh, I'm thinking like in America.
Yeah, I
That's
just
like our
don't know.
version. Okay.
So I'm not sure exactly the process of it, but the result was he was resentenced to life in prison.
Yes.
Nothing changed. And he had a non-parole period of 24 years, meaning that he would be eligible for parole in 2006.
Excuse me?
That time has come and went because, it happened in 1982. Since then, he's been refused parole numerous times, and most recently in 2014, he was denied again.
Yay.
So he's still in jail. Paul Luckman, the other killer, had a little bit of an easier time while in prison due to a few things. Paul kind of dove into a more feminine role, a feminine presentation, and was treated with a little bit more respect and had a little bit less violence because he would basically sell sexual favors. He would get cigarettes, drugs, money, whatever, by having sex with a lot of the inmates. In 1989, that progressed to the point where a psychiatrist helped him work through some things, and Paul came to the realization that he was trans. In 1990, he changed his name to Nicole Louise Pierce and began the transition process. I definitely want to clarify that I used male pronouns and male birth name just for the purposes of the chronology of the story. If I was to basically have a more casual conversation or not be telling a story on a podcast, I would definitely use female pronouns and the name Nicole. So I just think it's worth mentioning because I had contemplated saying Nicole and she from the very beginning because that's their chosen name and preferred pronoun. And I would definitely do that in literally every other situation other than telling this story.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to clarify that was the thought process there.
Wow, that would have painted a much different, not like super different picture, but a 17-year-old girl still would have been different than a 17-year-old boy. Sexual. I don't know why I hate to be super, like, not sexist, but it's just different for me, I guess.
Yeah, the gender maybe changes the...
It does.
For me, I just didn't want it to be confused or convoluted or anything, or whatever the case may be. I just wanted it to be streamlined into, you know, the events as they happened, you know, the timeline, I should say.
Chronologically.
Exactly. So, even after the transition, Nicole was housed in a facility for male sex offenders.
No, my goodness.
Yeah.
That's not cool.
Yes. The tactic that they used was to just call Nicole by her last name, Pierce, and treat her as a woman and give her a couple different privileges, but basically still have her in the male facility.
Which is what they kind of do in prison. Do they use last names a lot?
It seems like, yeah.
Okay.
On October 26, 1999, Nicole was released from prison.
I say, what?
You look like an emoji. Yes.
The poop one?
So in 1999, when Nicole did come up for parole, the parole board was notified by the prison staff that Nicole was a drug-using sex worker while incarcerated. They were informed of some of the activities that she had been involved in. They said that she was very paranoid. She had a lot of violent outbursts. She also attacked other inmates, and in particular, they brought up to the parole board that she had one major incident where she poured boiling water over another inmate.
Who the fuck gave him boiling water?
That's what I thought. Huh? Got to make ramen in your cell or something? Is ramen in Australia? It's got to be.
Yeah, they do. I thought they just... Oh, man. Fuck.
So... And this is a little tough because, again, I don't know if some of these things were in self-defense, but they did bring up that she had a lot of incidents. Despite all of that information, she was released from prison on October 26, 1999. When she was released, she moved to Victoria within 100 feet of an elementary school, a kindergarten, and a scout hall.
What's the scout hall? Sorry.
I'm assuming Boy Scouts.
Okay.
The authorities, upon learning this, they moved her to a relative's house. However, that arrangement didn't work out as well because the neighbors were really upset and she had to move again. So since then, she's resided in a bunch of places. Most of them I can't pronounce, but she's relocated frequently and I do not know where she is now. But she is free.
In beautiful West Hollywood.
Right down. She's behind you.
That sucks.
Yeah.
I feel bad. I sympathize. Not sympathize. Because she's a assault victim and you never know what could have led up to this. You could have had, I mean, you were trans. There's just there's a lot going on, right?
There is. I feel, I have some empathy for the struggles that she's went through and the fact that she was originally a victim and went through a very tumultuous childhood. I feel like I say this on a lot of episodes. You have to be a murderer to murder. Mm-hmm. So there's plenty of people that come up with those sort of circumstances and survive those sort of things and don't murder someone.
True.
So I don't know. I feel like, yes, she's had a very tough road and I feel terrible for that. However, I think that she crossed the line and maybe she wasn't held accountable as much as she should have been, having gotten out,
Fuck her, dude. Fuck. Seriously, honestly, forget it. Remember the little boys. So,
yeah.
Peter.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck her.
Yeah. So it's a rough story.
That was a good one. Queensland
Queensland
is the shit.
is killing it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably the wrong way to put that. I feel real dumb.
No, but you're like seriously right.
Yeah, I'm serious about it though. Like, I'm very impressed by the community, by the law enforcement. It's just like people stepping up left and right. And again, I think I said before, like, it just makes me feel hopeful when you hear those stories where things work out and everybody really steps up.
Yeah.
You know?
Because I feel like we just expect the worst here.
Yes.
Right? Like, it's never...
You mean in the podcast or just in America?
But in America, calling the cops is not a good thing.
Yeah,
really.
Sometimes it's just there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of violence, and for these detectives and police officers to just step up like this and do their job quickly, get it done, and I just can't even, I'm so impressed by the fact that they distributed this description, the public came forward, and then just it's a matter of hours that all that happened. There's a tip, there's the capture.
Yeah.
Like, that's just, what the fuck? I just never hear of that happening in all of my research, you know?
Australians are doers.
Yeah.
They get it done.
They're taking action, wrestling them gators or whatever it is.
Quokkas. We need quokka murders.
Man.
Fuck.
Love me some quokkas.
Ah.
So I love the story from Queensland Part 2, and I was going to go on to R next week,
Part 3.
but I'm torn because this has just been so
Part 3
impressive and hopeful, and I kind of want to do a third one.
or season 2 Australia. A.
Right, let's just go back and stay on A for about 7 weeks.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was the story for tonight.
That's a great story, Brianna.
It's
You
a good
killed
one. Thanks, dude.
Yeah.
Australia killed it.
Yeah.
Queensland killed it.
Yeah.
So, with all that said, I think we can move on to some iTunes reviews.
Oh, my goodness.
It's your fave.
Faves.
The first review that we have is from Nance, who left a really nice long note. Are you laughing because of Portlandia?
No, I was laughing because of Tropic Thunder.
Oh.
You said Lance? No, I said Nance.
Nance said that the show is well researched and thorough, very humorous, considerate and empathetic, and very relatable, amongst many other things. So thank you, Nance. That
Thanks,
was very
Nance.
sweet. We appreciate you.
What Portlandia thing are you thinking of? I can't remember.
One of the characters that she plays is named Nance.
Which one is that? Though I know it is.
It's kind of this square couple, if I remember correct. Like, she's got khakis on all the time. I think that's the one where she yells "Ayo River." I'm pretty sure that's the Nance character. If not,
So
I
good.
mean,
It's cool.
drugs.
Yeah.
But the next review is from Knittin' Chick, who says that they're still catching up and have truly enjoyed the podcast. You ladies rock. Keep up the good work.
Aw,
So
thanks.
thank you to Knittin' Chick.
Is it Knittin' Chick or Knittin' Chic?
You know what? Maybe I'm doing that wrong. The chic chick that knits. The next one is from Rob Farva, who loves the podcast
Farva. I love that.
and really enjoys the great content and our friendship.
Aw, me too.
Thanks, Rob. We your friend too.
Yeah, thanks, Rob.
And the next one is from Mike in Seaburg.
Wait, is that the name, or is like he just shouted out where he's from? He's like
Dipset. I'm not sure.
Yo, this is Mike and Seaburg out here. Just want to say what's up to my girls at MDP.
Right? Every time I read these, I'm like, I know I'm just butchering everybody's names. And they're like
I think they
screaming
like
at home, like, you fucked it up, Brianna.
I think they like it. They're like,
But
right?
I know some of these I'm messing up.
Yeah.
So Mike in Seaburg or Mike Inc. So Mike enjoys the random conversations and humor. He says, you ladies rock, love the story selections and the humor and tangents. Please don't ever change. I don't think we could if we tried.
Yeah.
So thank you, Mike. We appreciate you. That's awesome.
Thanks, Mike.
The next one is from Masha Mushy.
Masha
Which
Mushy.
is so cute. I'm in love with your name.
That's what I'm going to do to you later.
Masha Mushy says that we are funny and great storytellers. New fave podcast.
Ah, thanks,
Thank you, Masha Mushy. Masha Mushy.
Masha Mushy.
The next one is from Kat, who said that we are like a fine wine. These ladies get better with each episode. And she says she's girl crushing on us both. Hashtag girl crushing on them both. Thank you to Kat.
Hashtag meow.
I know, right? Meow.
Meow. Oh, yeah. I gotta be the cigarette cat just so I can hear.
Chain smoking, tracheotomy cat.
Thanks, Kat.
Thank you, Kat. We appreciate you. Thank you. And the next one, we've talked about her before, is from Kate, who we know from But Why Though podcast.
Oh, snaps.
Again, if you haven't listened to the Shark Week episode and the True Crime episode, we were both guests on But Why Though. Go check them out. We love them. They're the best.
Did you know my head is like a shark's fin?
Oh, yeah.
She's so amazing.
Yes. So she says she was blown away at the care and detail that Brianna and Kelly put into the cases and still find a way to keep me laughing. So thank you so much to Kate. We appreciate you and we love your show. Go check them out.
And she gorgeous.
She gorgeous.
Yeah.
Lipstick game on point.
Lipstick game point. It is just mwah.
The next one, another robot.
Oh, yes. Gay robot.
I'm pretty sure they mean excuse me. It's XXCUZ XX me.
Excuse me. Double excuse me.
They're missing an X. Jeez.
Excuse me.
And excuse me is definitely awesome because the first sentence is, if you don't like this podcast, you're dumb.
If you don't chew Big Red, then fuck you.
If you don't like Murder Dictionary, then you can go fuck.
That's awesome.
They said the show is super informative, but also freaking funny. Keep... sentences stop making sense. Whatever. Oh.
I can speak robot.
Keep doing y'all girls, and who cares about the people, our butts, or whatever.
Oh, they said keep doing us, don't worry about the haters.
Yeah, something like that. And also that they like my butt. I agree, excuse me. Thank you.
I love your butt. It's so nice.
Josie. And the next one is from Melvinator, who says, thank you, ladies, for brightening up my Saturday night at work.
Isn't a Melvin when you get like a wedgie in the front of your vagina? Is that a Melvin or is that a wedgie? What's that when a moose knuckle? No. I think
that's
Melvin.
Just when it's visible. I thought that the Melvin was also a wedgie, but just a different word.
You're probably right.
Like, I don't know, aren't taint and gooch the same thing?
Interchangeable?
Yeah. So I thought it was like that. We're going to look it up. And if there's nothing out there, we are putting some shit out there next week. It's going to be on Urban Dictionary.
My friend said they shaved their gooch, and he said that's Gucci. Gucci.
And that's it for
that's
iTunes reviews this week. Thank you
great.
so much to everybody that reviewed. We appreciate you so very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So cool.
I just feel like I'm going to say thank you like 70 times one of these episodes because that's how much I feel it.
Yeah. You
just
want to
go
start,
way overboard.
We could like, oh, thank you.
We could do a Boys to Men breakdown of it.
Can we do like an old singing thing too so I can just do a slide?
Little doo-wop?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
You just sing, I'll slide.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I'm on board. Once again, we wanted to also say thank you to our Patreon supporters for this week, Austin and SPK. I missed my cue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I go high, you go low. Thank you.
I'm really bad at this game.
You go low. Thank you. You don't want to try it once with me? Come on, let's harmonize, bitch.
I'm too busy laughing.
Okay, you go high, I go low.
This is not going to get any better because I can't stop laughing.
Thank you.
Your eyes are fluttering. Anyway. So thank you again to Austin and SPK for supporting us on Patreon this week.
Thank you.
And if you haven't checked out Patreon recently, we did post a couple bonus episodes. I think it was last week. So go check those out. There's some news stories and stuff, definitely, and a quiz game.
Yeah.
You know how much we love those. So those are up on Patreon if you are a Patreon supporter and haven't checked them out.
Every time I see that eel picture, I just grossed out.
Oh, man, barf cauldron.
Yeah.
Ugh. It's one of those things, like, you know how you see a bug and you can feel it on you? Mm-hmm. That's how I feel when I look at that eel picture.
Yeah, like
I can just feel the slime.
In your ear, like wiggle, wiggle, wiggle into your ear.
Yes.
Yeah. Or belly
bad.
button. Butt crack.
So I think that's it for this episode. Once again, if you haven't followed us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, make sure and run over there and see some eel pictures that'll make you all creeped out. The description and show notes for this episode, as always, will have some links to the resources that I used to research this week. If you need domestic violence resources or mental health resources, anti-bullying, anything like that, we have a bunch of links in the description. Check those out. If you haven't checked out our Patreon, we have some merch up there as well as bonus episodes. So check out the link for our Patreon, which will be in the description. And if you leave a 5-star review this week, we will shout you out next week and say thank you. Mm-hmm. So thanks to everyone this week for iTunes and Patreon. And I think that's it. We'll see you next week for another Queensland episode.
Yes. Yes. You ready to
true crime and chill.
And doo-wop in your ear, maybe?
Oh, no.
No?
I'll pass.
All right, true crime and chill. I'll take what I can get.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, true crime fans, have you listened to Wine and Crime yet?
We're a true crime comedy podcast hosted by 3 childhood friends who chug wine, chat true crime, and unleash our worst Minnesotan accents.
Each week, us gals pick a true crime topic and pair it with a delicious wine before delving into the background and psychology behind the crime.
Then we share and speculate wildly about a couple of bonkers cases related to the topic.
Past episodes include necrophilia, cults, crimes of passion, cruise ship disappearances, exorcisms gone wrong, all this over a bottle of wine, or, let's be real, 3.
Listen anywhere you get your podcasts. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Wine and Crime Pod, and check out our website and blog at wineandcrimepodcast.com.
Cheers!
Hi, it's Jamie, Progressive's Employee of the Month, 2 months in a row. Leave a message at the... Hi, Jamie. It's me, Jamie. I just had a new idea for our song about the Name Your Price tool. So when it's like, tell us what you want to pay, hey, 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 and the trombone goes, blah, 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 and you say, we'll help you find coverage options to fit your budget. Then we just all do finger snaps while a choir goes, savings coming at ya, savings coming at ya. Yes? No? Maybe? Anyway, see you practice tonight. I got new lyrics for the rap break.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
And now, a thought from Geico Motorcycle.
It took 15 minutes to take a spirit animal quiz online.
Please be the cheetah. Please be the cheetah.
And learn your animal isn't the cheetah, but the far less appealing blobfish.
Oh, come on.
To add insult to injury, you could have used those 15 blobfish minutes to switch your motorcycle